Starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening and welcome everybody to tonight's webinar. Thanks for coming along. So tonight we are talking getting to know our researchers. So you'll often hear us talk about the research that goes into our properties that we list. Well, tonight's your inside peek to some of our researchers, and we've got some guest speakers tonight, so you don't have to listen to me for yet another time. So I will just do a quick intro though and a little bit of housekeeping, and then I'll hand over to our guest speakers. So as always, we just want to make sure that everybody understands that it's important to always consider your own circumstances before making any decisions. So what we talk about at our webinars is general information. So you always need to consider how it would fit into your own investment plan. Okay, so introducing Roger Galway, one of our researchers, branch managers and property mentor, and Sharon Harvey, who is one of our research assistants and property mentor. So you can only imagine the experience in the room tonight that will be shared with you. So that's really, really exciting. Tonight you'll hear all about the club's rigorous researching process and understand how the Property Club can help you on your investment journey. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Roger. So just bear with me while we work the technical side of things. Okay.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Young Investors Club webinar. I'm excited to be part of the Young Investors, and I think a lot of this is where we want to go with our future. And it's great to see that so many young people are interested in investing in property, starting their journey early in this piece. So I'll come back and talk to you later, and I'll introduce Sharon. Sharon is a research assistant, and she'll be giving you a bit of an update, and then I'll come back and talk to you a little more about the actual property. So over to you, Sharon.
Thanks very much, Roger, and good evening, everybody. Great to be with you. So I'm just going to run through a bit about the role of the researcher, and then we're going to hand it over to Roger, and he's going to take you through some of our current investment opportunities for you. Thanks, Roger. So Roger's just going to turn over the slides for me. So there are our lovely mugs. So Roger and I have collectively about 30 years experience with Property Club, and prior to that we both have our own experience with investing as well. Collectively we've also helped many hundreds of members to purchase investment property and build their portfolios. So we are very happy to be presenting to you. Now, what I wanted to cover initially was to talk about the different types of investors that we tend to come across. And they tend to fall into three categories. So let's go through those. The first one is those that say to us once they see an investment property, oh, that's just what I want. And so they're actually thinking about themselves and where they would like to live, rather than thinking about, does this make a good investment property for me, but certainly, is this going to attract good quality tenants? So that's what we call the homeowner mentality. Now let's go to the next one. And I can really relate to this. This is analysis paralysis. And this is actually where my husband and I were before we fell across the Investors Club, or which used to be called the Property Club. So there's all sorts of ways that we find out about the Property Club. But we were in the process of building our own assessment model of investment properties. So my husband's a management consultant, and he built me this financial model, which took us about 18 months to build and then to refine. until we got some results that were pretty consistent and that we felt made sense to us. And then I started to put investment properties that I found through this model, and out the end it spat a number, and that number would tell me which properties would make better or not so good investment options. And so we were going through this process, and I was getting, the total score was out of 5. And so I was getting lots of, 3.5, 3.9, 3.7, might have got a 4 in there somewhere. And then I came across the Investors Club, and I thought, aha, this is the way I'll find out what's wrong with this organisation, which is really what most of us think when we first come across Investors Club. We can't believe that what they can deliver are actually what they're saying, because it sounds too good to be true. So then I started putting the Investors Club's properties through this model, and in fact, I was really surprised. We got like a 4.3, a 4.5, a 4.1, 3.9. And I thought, wow, well, like they're picking really good investment properties. And I have to say, that was really what turned me into deciding to start investing with Property Club, because their researchers, of which I'm now part of that, are out there doing all the work that I used to be doing at home. And so it is very comforting to know that a lot of work has gone into selecting which properties we list on our website. And I'll talk a bit more in detail about that. But that's the second type of investor we see. Now let's go to the third one. And this is the tipster. So often we hear from a member saying, oh, but the guy down the road suggested that I go and buy this property that he's found. And so the first question I ask is, oh, well, that's very interesting. How many investment properties does he currently hold, and how long has he been investing for? And more often than not, the answer comes back, oh, well, I don't know, or I don't think he's got any investment properties. So I would suggest you be aware of people who have great tips, because lots of people can have an opinion, but they may actually not have some good advice to pass on to you. So let's go through now what Property Club considers and the way we go about our investing approach. But we've got in the presentation tonight a couple of quotes from Warren Buffett. So Warren is the world's best share investor, and certainly some of his philosophies are very similar to Property Club philosophies. And the first one here, risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. So risk really comes from being unaware but trying to make decisions without having all that information behind you to start with. Thanks, Roger. So this is Property Club's investing strategy, which is it's all about the long-term return. So at the end of the day, the only reason that we're investing in property is because we want to create long-term wealth. And as Warren Buffett says, our favourite holding period is forever. No doubt if you've heard Kevin Young speak, who's the founder of Property Club, he also has a very similar view, which is never, never sell. And that is the basis of our long-term investing strategy. Thanks, Roger. Next slide. So with that in mind, then how do we select investment properties? So the first thing is we look at the macro market. So that is the big picture. So first of all, we look at the economy. And the economy, of course, is not only the Australian economy, that different states have different economic performances as well. And part of the economy, of course, is the interest rates, the bank lending policies, which are something that we look at very closely in this day and age. Certainly the inflation rate and the growth outlook and many other factors in the broad economy. Then we look at each of the individual markets, starting at the broad end from the national market, then going down to looking at and understanding each of the different states and what's happening in the states, and then going further down, drilling down to more a local area. And within those markets, we're looking at things like infrastructure. And that can be anything from government spend, which could be roads and schools and hospitals. That's the national government spend, of course, down to state government spend, which could be, upgrading railways and other local infrastructure, and also down to local government spend and what they're doing in the areas as well. We're also interested in the supply chain, and that is, what are other developers doing? So we're looking at how much stock is already expected to be built in the market and how much is being delivered, because of that then comes to be a competition for your own investment properties. But especially we're looking at tenant demand. So we're looking at those key factors which attracts tenants to want to rent properties, and also wants to pay good quality rent, and ideally wants to stay, a medium type term. So I found with our investment properties, when we first started investing, that tenants were staying on average somewhere between 2 and 3 years, where I'm finding now that with our tenants, they're staying on average somewhere between 5 to 7 years, and that only makes very good sense for an investor long term. Next slide, thanks, Roger. So then we look at the micro market. And Property Club picks 13 factors in relation to this micro market. That's certainly the positioning of the individual property, the shopping around the area, both local and major shopping, what transport networks there are. Traffic and noise is certainly something that we consider. The walk score, which is how easy it is to walk certainly to local shops, and also employment. We also take a close look at the builders that we're looking to be working with, and understanding what their construction methodology and materials are. We then look at the rent that's proposed for the property, looking at the cash flow, the style of the property, and also the value at contract price. And one other point that's just been covered up by my STAR report is the wow factor. And of course, tenants do like looking at the wow factor and living in a place that has a wow factor. But to help our members then to differentiate between the many properties that Property Club then lists, we've created what's called a STAR report. And in fact, it does a very similar thing to the model that my husband and I initially built, was it will spit out a number at the end, which is a score comparing, in fact, the properties that Property Club has listed. So just in this example, you can see that this particular report, that this property would score 43 out of 50, and that then allows you as members to compare their properties that Property Club are putting up to help you make your decisions as to what to next invest in. Thanks, Roger. So just a couple more quotes from Warren Buffett. He says, "I make no attempt to forecast the general market. My efforts are devoted to finding undervalued securities." And certainly that is a focus that Property Club looks at, is looking for real value in the properties that we provide. So price is what you pay, but value is what you get. And as Roger takes you through a couple of investment options, he's also going to show you some of the additional incentives that researchers are able to negotiate with our vendors that provides even additional value to Property Club members that you could never get if you were purchasing these properties outside the club. Thanks, Roger. So I'm now going to hand over to Roger, and he's going to talk about the sorts of properties that we list on our website, and also to give you some examples of some investments you might be interested in right at the moment. Thanks very much, Roger.
Thank you, Sharon, for that that very good explanation about from what we do as researchers. One thing I want to add before I go into the actual property of what we list. One thing I wanted to add in this with regards to the STAR report. Just because a STAR report doesn't have 50 on 50 stars, it doesn't mean that it's a bad property. I just want to make that observation, because what happens is sometimes the position of a property could be very close to the railway line, okay? So, or close to the railway station or a shopping center. Now, if that's the case, you may not get 5 stars for traffic and noise, because there will be a bit of traffic and noise close to a railway station or close to the shopping center. And your walk score will be high, but your position may be a bit, your traffic noise you may lose a couple of stars for that. So just be aware of that sort of thing. So just because you don't get, every property is not going to be 50-50, 50 out of 50, okay? Now, so that brings us back to, what do we list? Let me assure you, as a researcher, we reject more properties than we actually list. And the reason for that is we have this criteria which we follow, and we are very strict on, and the club is very strict on what we can list. So what we look at listing, we look at listing house and land packages. We have different house and land packages all over the country. We have low rise, a bit of apartment living, and we have townhouses. So those are the type of properties we list. We generally, the apartments will be close to where the transport is, and I'll show you that in a moment, okay? Now, the first property which I'm going to talk about is in a suburb called Calcalo. Where is Calcalo? Calcalo, and I didn't know where this suburb was till recently. This suburb, Calcalo, is a small suburb which is close to the Hume Highway north of Melbourne. It's about 40 odd km from Melbourne, and it is a stockland estate. It's just next, between the Hume Highway and the railway line. It's just after Craigieburn. So those who, if you know Melbourne, you've got Melbourne in down south, and then you go up north. This is the road. This is the Hume Highway, which takes you all the way to Sydney. So Calcalo is just off the Hume Highway. Very, very nice suburb. It's got some good established areas. So what we have got over there in the Cloverton estate, we have got access to some house and land packages. Now the land is being sold very, very quickly. Now at the moment, this particular property is about 550,000, and the land is coming in at about 340, between 300 to 400,000 based on the size of the land. So the land component is just going up and up and up. So, but what we've been able to establish with our builders, we are able to get it at a land price at a lower price than what is available in the market. So what we do is we negotiate with them, we hold on, we get the stock, but again, it moves very quickly. So if you're interested in a house and land package, please contact your property mentor and fill in a registration of interest, which I'm going to be talking about very soon. So this is a house and land package. Again, we look at what tenants will be available over there. You're generally going to get a family because it's a 4-bedroom house with a yard, and this will be more close to the transport. The railway line is there. You've Hume Highway not far away, but it's more a family lifestyle sort of thing in this particular instance. So again, you have to focus on what you're looking at from a tenant's perspective. But another thing, what we do as researchers or as property mentors also, we tell you to build a portfolio of properties, and then you look at different properties in your portfolio. And this is what I'm going to show you. So that's where Cloverton is. You can see the Hume Highway, Donnybrook Road is there, and then you've got the railway line, which is just opened up, and they're opening a new future station. There you've got Donnybrook Station, you've got Craigieburn Station, you've got the Highland Shopping Centre, which is going to be one of the biggest shopping centres that side of town. So we look at where the properties are located, and that's how we select the properties and we list them. So this is some of the internals which you can see, which this builder has built. Really nice quality properties, very good finishes, and they use good quality. So very quickly with the cash flow, as I said, it is $20,000 less than the market price. So you're looking at, again, I'm not going to go through all these numbers, but at the end, the bottom line is you look at the surplus or deficit. It's about, to hold this property, you're earning about $81,000. It's going to cost you about $27 a week to hold this property, okay, to hold a $550,000 property. So that's not bad. So don't get too fussed about the size of the property price, but look at what your bottom line figure is going to be, okay? So that's what I always tell my members to focus on that. And again, you can go through your cash flow. Your property mentor will go through the cash flow analysis and explain to you how it works. The next property which we have currently on the stock list is the Mark in West Road, Maribyrnong. Now, where is Maribyrnong? Maribyrnong is in Melbourne. It's about 10 kilometers north of the CBD. Now, you can see the difference between the property in Kalkallo and this one. Now, this is more in the center. It's just it's not even 2 minutes away from the Melbourne Showgrounds and the Flemington Racecourse, if those of you who know Melbourne. So it is not far from the racecourse. We've got the Victoria University around the corner. You've got some great suburbs around. You've got Aberfeldy, you've got Essendon, you've got Maidstone and Moonee Ponds around there. Okay. Now, what I like about this particular development, and in fact, my daughter is buying a property in this one. She's buying a one-bedder. It is next to the High Point Shopping Centre in Maribyrnong. And Maribyrnong, that is one of the biggest shopping centres in Melbourne. After you've got Chadstone, and it compares to a Southland or an Eastland. So you've got High Point Shopping Centre. In fact, I think it's bigger than Eastland and Southland. So you've got, this is at the corner of West Road, and so great location. The terminus starts off from there. It runs along here and comes down to, you've got big Bunnings, you've got everything you want in Maribyrnong in the High Shopping Centre. So from a location point of view, it's an ideal location for someone even who works in the city. It's only 15-20 minutes. It's 10 kilometers. It's about 20 minutes away by tram. Location, great location. Now again, we've listed some. You can see the property in the area. You've got some very good cafes. Now, from a quality point of view, again, I'm not saying this because my daughter's buying here, but one of the reasons why she's buying, this is one of the best properties I have seen in my 15 years of being with the club, or my 20 years of investing in property. The quality of the property in this particular property is second to none. So I think it's an excellent buy. It's a great location, very good quality stuff. So this is the type of fittings you will get in your property. This is the rooftop garden which overlooks the city, and each one is got, you can book it, you can sit down, you go and have a coffee or a tea or a beer, or you can relax. They've got barbecue facilities, and you can hire it out also if you want through the body corporate. Very good. Again, we've looked at a one-bedroom. They start from 370 till about 410 for the one-bedders, and the two-bedders are in the high fours and early 100,000. Okay. Again, we've negotiated a $10,000 settlement incentive. So if you buy a property, it's going to be completed in March. It's nearly completed, and it's going to be about 4 or 5 months away. They've done the outside. Now they're doing all the inside, and they're doing the fit out at the moment. So when you get it from a cash flow perspective, this particular property is actually cash flow positive by about $22 a week. Based on a $385,000 purchase price, your income on an average, we take an average income of $81,000. And so therefore, when you look at the numbers perspective, you're going to be getting a surplus of $22 a week on this particular property. Again, I would suggest sit down with your property mentor and let them do an analysis for your own in your circumstances. But again, very, very good property, nice quality, great finishes, and very excellent property to have in your portfolio. Another one in Sydney, which I've come across, and a Melbourne builder was asking me if I wanted to list something in Sydney, and I said, well, what have you got to offer? And this is in Campbelltown. I think this is a very, very good property. It is 5 levels, and there's not many in the development, but it is Campbelltown. Where is Campbelltown? Campbelltown is about an hour away from Sydney. It is southwest of Sydney, and it is a great up and coming area which is developing very quickly. The other good thing about Campbelltown is you've got the new airport coming up in Rangers Creek, which is slightly west of Campbelltown. So this whole area is growing very, very quickly. And again, it comes down to affordability. People cannot afford to live closer in Sydney, so they're moving out. And as you can see, Sydney is basically, it goes west. So Campbelltown, this particular property is in Chamberlain Street, and you can see Campbelltown Station is there. You've got Macarthur Shopping Centre. That's a huge, big shopping centre. You've got the universities. You've got the TAFE colleges. The Hume motorway, which actually connects to Melbourne, is not far away. You can get onto the Hume and head to the city. Great location. And as I said, the new airport is not far away from Campbelltown. So yes, there is a bit of development in Campbelltown, but I think from a growth perspective, the potential for long growth is very, very good in Campbelltown. So again, these are the finishes which we've got. Really nice, clean finishes is what we look for. And we look at a bed over there. This is going to be settling in another 4 weeks. Today I spoke to the builder, and he said he's hoping to have the settlement by the completion by October, settlement in November. So it's pretty much ready to go, and nice, very nice development. Okay, again, from a cash flow perspective, I've one bedder for 410,000. Again, we've got a $10,000 settlement incentive. So once your property settled, you'll get $10,000, which the builder will be paying you. Now again, look at the cash flow from here. This works out to a deficit of about $12 a week. So that's something you got to consider. Can you afford $12 a week to hold a property with 400,000? And that's something that's at the end of the day, that is what you want to look at. Yes, you want to make sure that you've got a buffer and you've got set up correctly. So talk to your property mentor, because they are the ones who can guide you and give you the right advice as far as setting yourself up for the future. Right. If you're interested in any of these properties, or if you're interested in any property, or if you're not sure what you want, or you're not sure about a particular area, please contact your property mentor and fill out a registration. Ask them for a registration of interest. Tell them, Roger asked me to contact you for a registration of interest. Fill out one of those forms, and that basically, so it doesn't matter where you're looking for in property, anywhere in Australia. Fill out one of those forms, and that will come to us as researchers, and we will look for it and go and find these for you. If there's none which suit your budget or suit your taste or whatever the case may be, fill out one of these forms, and we are happy to look at what there is available. Okay, so what's your next step to financial independence? Okay, and this is what one of the things. Again, many of you may not be thinking about retiring, but just be aware that 80% of people who retire live on the pension. Now, again, I don't want to be in that 80%. So I want to be in the top 5% who's comfortable and who's financially independent. So what do you do? You have to take action. How do you take action? I would suggest talk to your property mentor, complete a financial wealth check if you haven't one already. And again, this is a copy of it. Your property mentor should be able to help you. But your property mentor is your best friend. And I want you to make him or her best friend, because they're the ones who are going to give you the next step and guide you along this journey, because it is a journey, but it's a fantastic journey. So I would highly recommend talking to your property mentor to fill out your investment plan, and then you can move forward. So that's it from me. Jenny, I'm going to, Jason, Justin, I'm going to swap back to you, and yeah, so you can close off the evening.
Excellent. Thanks, Roger. Thanks, Sharon. Okay, so some really good information there. We ran a similar session at our recent Victorian Masterclass for young investors. And it was a really exciting session because everybody wants to know how to invest. Everybody's attending these sessions for a reason, and that is obviously because you want to go on an investment journey and you hopefully identify the need, being that retirement is inevitable. And like Roger has indicated, 80% of retirees are living off the pension, and the reality is that for us young investors, there will probably be no pension. So we have so much that we need to prepare for. So I guess there are a couple of things that I want to finish up with you tonight, but be sure to check out our upcoming webinar. Details will be released shortly. We do run a webinar every month. We try to keep them short and sharp so as not to bore everybody and make sure that the information is of the best value to you. One exciting thing that we want to talk to you about tonight is our referral campaign. So what the club have on offer at the moment is if you refer a friend to the club and they purchase a property, work through the process and their property settles, you will get $2,000. So even if you've never bought a property from the club, the very fact that you are talking to others and talking about the club, and if they have a successful settlement, then that's $2,000 in your pocket for not having to do much at all. So I guess one of the biggest things that I really try to do as a young investor is talk to my friends about the fact that we are young. We actually have time to make a difference to our future. So it's really important that we do share that information, because I don't think enough young people are actually thinking about what their future holds when they hit retirement. So this is a really good campaign to help with that. We always love to leave you with some words of wisdom. So don't let your lack of action cost you money, because the reality is the longer you wait to invest, the more money it costs you. Start thinking about your retirement. It might seem a long way away, but it's inevitable. No one else is going to look after your retirement, so you need to do it. Take action. Your investment clock is ticking. And I think one of my favourite points that Roger raised was your property mentor is your best friend. We have a lot of information due to the overwhelming experience of all of our club researchers, our property mentors, but your property mentor can help you sift through all of that information and find what's relevant for you. So contact your property mentor and talk about your retirement now, because your investment clock is ticking. So big thank you to Roger and Sharon tonight. Really valuable information. And thank you everybody for coming along. Have a good night, everyone.